Namaste. Welcome to yoga today. Now, we were talking last week about how to live your life better and better, as you become more and more established on the spiritual path. We talked about having confidence in your relationship with God and how important that is. And we talked about faith and meditating and lots of different ways in which to make your life better. And as a part of all of those things, it's important for us to be able to let go, to let go of the ego, of the old way of doing things. And so today we're going to look at how to practice, what practices help us with silence, becoming still and content, and with letting go of the old, letting go of the false sense of self. So these are just some wonderful ways to do that. And the first one is listening. Even in the outside world, if you like, listening is such an important skill. They've done where they record conversations of people sitting around talking. And usually you can see visibly in what's going on that very few people are really listening. Everyone's waiting for their moment to jump in and take over the conversation. So they're not listening and giving their care and attention to the other person. They are actively waiting their turn so that they can then have their moment in the limelight. So what does it mean to be really listening, and what does it give us? And so one of the most wonderful things is it helps you to be silent. If you're already thinking about what you're going to say next, you're not silent. If you listen more, it helps to bring peace to your home. Why is that? Well, because you get to hear what somebody is truly saying, not your opinion of what they're saying. So you don't have you're not necessarily giving a lot of advice. You're not telling people what to do. You're not judging them. Because if you listen, you hear the truth behind it. So if somebody's angry about something, very often if you're listening, you can hear the pain or the fear behind their apparent anger. So listening helps us to retreat further into the soul. Even if you're just having a simple conversation with somebody, the more you focus on listening, the more your attention moves deeper into your being. And it puts you more in touch with the soul. And we want to be able to dissolve into the soul. So all the more important is this when we sit to meditate. We're not there to just chatter away at God. We're there to listen, to see if we can hear the voice of spirit in the depths of your soul. So often not words, in fact, usually not words, but an opening of your being to the greater good, to the wisdom of the soul, to the love of spirit. So I think we'll just take a couple of minutes here and sit and listen. You can either think of it as the Lord of your heart or your own soul. And can we listen quietly, serenely, and just listen? You might want to ask a question and listen for the answer. Like, what would you like me to do in this situation? What would you like? What does your soul want to express, or what does God want to express through you? So let's just take a moment. What in this very moment does your soul want to show you, or the Lord of your heart want to show you? Jai. Sometimes it's good to have a visualization that goes with this sense of letting go, So with having a sense of throwing overboard what you don't want to hold on to, old ways of thinking and feeling, any worries that you have, you know, fine to think about a worry, look at it, think, what can I do here? Is this something I have to just accept, or is it something I can do something about? And if it's something that you can change, then change it. Have the courage that it takes to make a change. And if not, don't worry about it. Let it go. Don't hold on to it. So we want to have this sense of throwing them overboard, the weighing your boat down, slowing you down. So anything you're worried about holding on to, have a little moment or two with it. Look at it in the light of day. And if you don't need it, throw it overboard. Try. Let's think about our old habits. And Guruji talked about old habits of lethargy, lacking in energy, dullness, tamasic behavior. That tamasic is that quality that grounds you, that holds you. It's, in a way, you need some of that tamasic quality to sit, to meditate, that you're not jumping up, but you want to let go of it as an attitude of mind and heart. Anything that feels routine or just I have to do this, some things that you have to do that bring about this dullness. Anything that feels routine, that you just are doing it because it's got to be done. We want to let it go. So let's look at throwing overboard our old habits. You've had them a long time, but are they serving you in any way? Let's have a look. Try. Can you sense that the peace is deepening as you let go? This is a part of the spiritual path that's so important. Can you let go? We hold on tight. We hold on tight to the things that um, scare us, the things that we worry about, the things that have happened to us. And as we let go, we become so much more present in this moment. We're so much more at peace. Imagine reacting more from that part of you that's still and silent and available instead of responding out of your anger and fear. What a different life that looks like. So I think this is an interesting question. Are you out of rhythm? The universe has a rhythm to it. There are seasons. Even if you live somewhere close to the equator and they don't change much, there's still the subtle rhythm of life. There's rhythm for human beings as they are born and grow up and then begin to age, and there are different. So there's a rhythm to life. How attuned with you are you with your rhythm and the rhythm of the universe around you? So what we're going to now do is, can you sense this universal rhythm? And can you sense your own rhythm, your own arc through life? You know, can you sense the rhythm of your being? If you want to, you can even just clap your hands to yourself. Can you sense the rhythm that matches your body? Try. Sometimes in life we're very good at things. We have an aptitude for them. We enjoy them particularly. But we also have areas in our life where we don't perform as well. We don't find things as simple and as easy. And very often we have a kind of a weakness there, just an inability to bring the whole of your being to bear on something. So, do you have a sense of the weaknesses that are very often the conclusion of the ego? The ego makes its mind up. You're not very good at that. And we reinforce it regularly with ourselves. All you need is if you're in a family and there's more than one child, there's always somebody better at something than you and worse at something than you. And so just within that little small family group, there's that sense that, oh, you have a weakness here. You're not so good at this. It can be, you know, it can be something as simple as you're not as tidy as your sister or your brother, or you're not as tough as them. So it's this sense of where we have allowed the ego to cement weakness into our being, make it so that we feel like that's a part of our makeup when it absolutely isn't. It needs to go. It needs to go overboard with the rest of the things we're binning at the moment. So where do you have any sense of being weak? Of feeling weak, of having either an attitude of weakness or a memory of weakness? Can we let that go? You built it, you constructed it, your ego constructed that. You might not have been as tidy as your sister or your brother, but you might be tidier than most everybody else. So you might be in the top 10 tidy people, but be in the bottom three in your house. The ego is terrible for taking information and running amok. So, whatever area that you sense that you struggle, that you feel weak, it's really, if you can imagine, it's really just a misunderstanding of the ego and its behavior. It's not a real weakness. Your soul does not have that real weakness. And it's almost like it becomes part of the myth of who you are. It's not true. So let's throw out this sense of weakness, this memory of weakness, this persistent attitude of weakness, wherever you find it in your being. shy. You know, there's no one on the planet who has not experienced sorrow, but it's transient and very often misplaced. It's part of this terrible misunderstanding that we have of life. And behind all sorrow is great joy. You know, you have two choices. You can be, if somebody passes away, you can be sorrowful and you'll miss them and think of the loss of them. You can also think of the blessing of them and them being in your life and the joy they brought to it. So, yes, there are times when we're sad, but we don't want sorrow to become the ruling party of our consciousness. We want to be able to access the joy underneath it, the appreciation, the goodness of people, of spirit, even in times of sorrow. So, can we take a minute and just look at this? Are you carrying sorrow from times gone by? And is it time to let that go? Even let some of it go if you can. One of the things that often holds our energy and attention is life's disappointments. Oh my goodness, I remember when I was a kid, the disappointment if you have an ice cream cone and you're not paying attention and you haven't licked it for a while and the ice cream falls off the cone. That feeling inside, the unfairness of this, and that this is not what I wanted. So disappointment comes from the same place as anger, unfulfilled desires. We are disappointed because we didn't get what we wanted. And sometimes it's overwhelmingly disappointing. You want a child and you do the test and it's negative. The overwhelming disappointment. And to realize that you can go on to have a child and still carry that consciousness of disappointment with you. You're still sad the ice cream dropped on the floor, even though you've had many ice creams since, if we don't let it go. So just having a little look in there at life's disappointments, times when, the job you didn't get that you really wanted, the person who you thought was going to be your love and it didn't work out. Oh, disappointment. It can be hard work. But the disappointment of that moment is gone. Can we understand that and let that feeling go so it doesn't, if you're looking at life through the lens of your consciousness, if it's colored with disappointment, then are you just looking through life expecting this disappointment to come your way, that you're not going to be able to live a life that's full and free and rich, even if it's not exactly what you hoped for. Yogis would say, as you grow on the spiritual path, life will be far more than you ever could have hoped for. So disappointment is a thing of the past. So let's take a minute and see if you have any disappointment you could throw overboard to free up your consciousness, live a more peaceful life. And you let go of your desires on a day-to-day basis. We have a desire of how our day is going to go. And every day it doesn't work out. You know, John Lennon says, life's what's happening when you're making other plans. So you make your plan, this is what you want, and already the day's changed and gone in ever so slightly different direction. Just have a quick look in there at your desires, and can you let them go to realize that what spirit has in store for you is greater than you can desire, greater than what you're looking for is what you're going to get. So let's see if there's any desires in there that you're hanging on to and don't really care about that much anymore. I mean, I can give you an example. I think it was, in fact, I read this a long time ago. It was Irma Bombeck who said, you know, children should be like waffles. You know, the first waffle you make in the waffle iron doesn't come out very well. She said they should be like waffles. You just throw the first one away because you're not very good at it. And then the next one's looking a lot better. Obviously, it's a joke. Nobody wants to be throwing their kids away. But it's that sense that this is a job you have no training for. And so it's not surprising that most people are not very good at it when they start out. And so you may have a desire to be a good parent. And that desire may come from realizing what a bad parent you are when you first start. You don't know, you know, do we let them cry? Do we hold them the whole time? Do we put them down? There's so many different schools of thought. How do you let a child know that the behavior that they're doing is inappropriate? Are you able to keep them safe? There's so much to it. And so very often people desire to be a better parent. And time goes on and they improve because of that desire. But the truth of it is some children are thrilled with the parents they have, no matter how good or bad they are. Some kids never forgive their parents for the transgressions of an early age. So yes, do what you can to be a better parent, but it's that letting go of the desire. Don't worry about that. Just do it. Do your best on a moment-to-moment basis. The risk you run is you might become a really wonderful parent and be deeply appreciated by your children. But if you still have that desire, you will never even notice that it's been fulfilled. That's the trouble with desires. They become so deep-seated and deep-rooted in us that we miss that they are very often being fulfilled. So we've just got a couple more so that we'll just have a quick look at what your worldview is, what your personal opinion. There's an English comedian called John Cleese. He used to be in Monty Python, Monty Python's Flying Circus many years ago. And he talked about this and he said, in our family, it was always said, oh, we don't like broccoli. And so as a child, you were lumped in with the family in this idea that we don't like broccoli. Well, each person's an individual. Everyone's digestion is different. Some people don't like or do like broccoli, depending on how well their body metabolizes it. Nothing to do with what family you're born into, possibly. What's your worldview? What do you think? Oh, we really like this, and I like this, and I don't like that. What's your personal opinion? And how well do you know yourself in this? Are you still parroting the generalizations of your parents? Can you let these things go and see the world clearly? Clearly. So, just for this next 2 minutes or less, just sense how you view the world. Who's right and wrong on sides of arguments? Who's doing a good job? Who's doing a bad job? Can you let that go and look at it with an open mind and heart? Try. What's the difference between your personal life experience and opinion and somebody else's? Can you recognize it? It's not about what's right and wrong. For somebody, you take something like food. If you're allergic to seafood, seafood is a terrible thing to eat. It's a life-threatening thing. If you aren't, you may think that one of the best things in the world would be to eat is some fish, some seafood, that it's healthier than a lot of other things and it gives you the right combination of nutrients that your body needs. So and we have a bad habit of thinking my personal opinion is right and your personal opinion is wrong, when it's really clear to see that in that case, that's all it is a personal opinion. And a lot of times we love things. When I was out in Africa, they used to say, oh, we'd go somewhere and the Tanzanians would be like, oh, wonderful. They have ugali, which is a maize kind of porridge that's really thick. And they eat it with their hands and they break it down and they make it gets a little ball and you push it into a spoon shape and you scoop your food with it and you eat the whole thing. And they were like, oh, this is the best thing because they grow up eating ugali. It's the staple, um, you know, it's a staple carbohydrate in their culture. And so when we eat it, we go out there and they're so excited that we're going to get to eat ugali and they show it to us and everyone else, that if you were born somewhere else, people are eating it, they're like, this doesn't taste of anything. But things like rice and potatoes don't taste of all that much either. We use them to bulk up food as a carbohydrate. Is it true that ugali is wonderful and rice is ordinary? Oh, depends really on what you grew up with. And it's that sense, why waste your life going, ugali is the best, it's definitely the best. What's wrong with all these people who aren't eating it? No, it's just personal choice. There's nothing wrong with it. It's wonderful, but so is rice and bread or whatever else it is that we're eating. What's the difference between the reality and your personal viewpoint? And so the biggest one and the last one that we're going to do is your personality. We spent a long time building that one up. We think it's who we are, but it's not. You're honing and shaping it on a daily basis based on all of the input from the outside world. And yogis would say, let that go and have the input come from your soul. So can you let go? Can you shed the small self of the ego as you sit silent and still? Jai. And I think it was Swami Premanandan, a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna's, who said, by forgetting your little self, you find the big self. It's like by forgetting the ego, you find the soul, you find knowledge, you find love, you find your true divine nature. Namaste.